We come across a number of FitPros who really want to go down the route of working with athletes, and they really struggle to find athlete clients.
With athletes, the challenge can be that you give them feedback and then they give you feedback. When you're like, no, actually, I'm the one who's studying and going to school and learning all the most important things. It can be a challenge, I think, for personal trainers who were previous athletes to not only enter the space of the general population, because there is that kind of disconnect there, but they have to learn, I think, over time, how to put themselves in their client's shoes and understand really what it's like to be someone who hasn't moved their body in years.
How were you able to transition across successfully from one audience to like a completely different audience?
I think people can see through sometimes our lead generation tactics. It's like the referral programs, the programs we kind of always offer, that they have to put in potentially more than we are. So I recognize that the 4 programs that we should be offering, I like to call them exposure programs. So ways to help people really get to experience what you offer.
The people viewing our ads, they're kind of getting used to the same offerings that everyone gives: a 7-day free pass, half price first month.
If you offer, let's say, a trial membership, but there's nothing that really is related to what they're looking for, it kind of loses its excitement. It takes several times for someone to see a social media ad, to maybe step foot or do a tour. You might be surprised at how many times it took that person to make the decision to want to work and actually attend your facility. So it's a much different experience than when you say, we're offering this referral program, invite your friends to come work out at the gym. That's nice. They're bringing their friend might jump on the elliptical, go, this is a cool elliptical, love this, I've seen this 100 other places. Or if you actually create an event that you invite your current clients to come and invite their friends to, it can be a rock star experience. They'll meet other people that they know and believe that they can build relationships with by becoming a member of your facility. And the effect of that, I think, experience is what makes the difference.
Hey guys, David here from the FitPro Lead Gen podcast, and I want to welcome you to another massive interview. But before we do dive into this week's guest interview, I want to say a big thank you to LeadDeck for sponsoring this episode, the all-in-one platform to help you automate and generate more leads into your fitness business. And again, as usual, if you want to join in with these guest interviews live, then come and join us inside the free Facebook group where you can ask questions live as we do these interviews. Anyway, enough of me talking, let's dive into this week's guest interview.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a brand new live. I'm going to apologise straight away. The sun is out the other way. The sun's out here in Wales, so I'll try and stay out the way for all those watching. Today we have Staci Alden on, and we had a quick chat, and I've decided we're going to say Staci's from Seattle instead of being very specific about where she's from the USA. Staci, welcome. How are things?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. So it's bright and early in the morning here in the US.
Nice. Yeah, it's 4 minutes past 7 here. So later on in the afternoon for us here in the UK and nice and early in the morning. So obviously we didn't know each other until we had Jessica come on the other week. And then you kind of saw it on the Instagram, had a couple of chats with her on the team, and then we've got you booked in. So everything you're going to tell me today about you, your history and everything you do is going to be all brand new to me. So I look completely shocked. It's because I'm learning all this new stuff for the first time.
I love it. It's so true.
Okay, so the first question we always ask everybody before we dive into the topic is, how did you get started in the fitness industry?
I started in the very beginning, was a collegiate athlete here in the United States. I was a swimmer, was how I helped support myself through college, and initially thought I wanted to be a coach. I really wanted to work with only athletes because they're the ones who know everything, who can do everything. And I was very specifically geared toward initially working with only athletes. Fast forward to becoming a personal trainer, becoming a group fitness instructor, and really recognizing and getting excited about the fact that helping the general population, the facility, the students at the rec center, I felt like I could really affect their abilities to improve their lives versus helping, and athletes are wonderful as well, but helping maybe a volleyball player jump a couple of inches more wasn't quite as rewarding to me as working as a group fitness instructor and personal trainer. I started working as a group fitness manager at a luxury health club in this area. They had 3 locations and evolved their group fitness department to what it is today. And during the pandemic in 2020 and what we're still kind of working through now, I made my way into building my own business as a group fitness consultant. I would even say that I work more with fitness managers in general, because here in the United States, and I'm assuming in the UK as well, the role of a group fitness manager, coordinator, supervisor, whatever you want to call it, has really evolved into so much more. We're overseeing schedules with group fitness instructors. We're coaching personal trainers on how to get clients and teach classes. And then we have a lot of private Pilates instructors here who also teach classes and see private clients. So there's this mix and match that's happening, I think, more and more in the industry. And so I can speak to that as well now. I work more now on the entire fitness supervisor side, helping them make sense of all the complicated things that happen in that space.
Nice, nice. So let's go right back then to when you initially got started then and you were working with athletes, because we come across a number of FitPros who really want to go down the route of working with athletes, and they really struggle to find athlete clients.
Yeah.
Why did you notice that, and why did you kind of think maybe I need to move away from athletes?
I mean, I think it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision. It was more that I enjoyed myself more when I was working with the more general population. The opportunity at that collegiate time was actually pretty prevalent for both. I could work with athletes because I was working as a kind of an intern in the strength and conditioning center at the university. So I was seeing and working with athletes, and also having a challenge of, there's times I think with athletes, the challenge can be that you give them feedback and then they give you feedback. And then when you're like, no, actually, I'm the one who's studying and going to school and learning all of the most important things as to why your body should be resting during a certain period or working during a certain period, or how I can help you improve your training. And it was just a different environment than working with the general population. They're much more accepting and listening and absorbing everything that you're telling them as a fitness professional. They aren't quite as knowledgeable as maybe an athlete may assume that they are or think that they are, just because they've moved their body for longer. And so I really enjoyed that population more. But I will admit, it can be a challenge, I think, for personal trainers who were previous athletes to not only enter the space of the general population, because there is that kind of disconnect there, but they have to learn, I think, over time, how to put themselves in their clients' shoes and understand really what it's like to be someone who hasn't moved their body in years sometimes. And I remember when I was a brand new personal trainer speaking to clients about asking them, the generic questions you ask in that intro session. How often do you work out? What does your schedule look like? What does your movement schedule look like? And hearing them say, it's actually been about 2 years since I've done anything, and I'm so excited to get started with you. And I couldn't quite grasp that as someone who moves all the time. So I think that's definitely a challenge. And some trainers recognize, I really don't want to work with that population. And I think in that case, they need to do their best to work with companies that do have athletes at the ready to work with. It tends to be in a general club facility. You're going to be working mostly with younger athletes if you're going to be doing that in a more general club facility. But if you go to the collegiate level, or if you work at a rec center, you might see some collegiate athletes or professional athletes make their way in the door.
Nice. Okay. So if you're somebody that works with, like you say, you were working with athletes, which is one audience, and you just had that feeling like, I prefer working with a different type of audience, how hard is it to transition from one to another? Because I know a lot of people who work mainly with, I don't know, they might work with women initially because it's just easier to pick up female clients, but they actually prefer working with males, but they're scared of letting go of their females because they've worked hard, but they want to transition to males, and they're in that catch kind of 20 area where they're not sure how to transition across. How were you able to transition across successfully from one audience to a completely different audience?
I really, made my journey into working in a health club. And so I think that specific space is where those non-athletes happen to work out. If you are deciding to work with a different clientele, I think it depends on where you are. So determining, which location is going to be potentially a good space to have availability or have those clients available to you. like you said, women do tend to, especially here in the States, when we go to a health club and you are a personal trainer, majority of your clients are women if it is a generic health club. But if you really wanted to start working with men, it needs to be not only the facility you're in potentially, but also your own script. You know, how are you marketing yourself? How are you exposing people to your offerings, and what offerings do you have that are going to cater to that offering, to that audience that you're looking for?
Nice. Okay, so let's dive more into group fitness then, and in particular, helping the managers and the club operators really kind of move this business forward. I know we talked previously before starting, there was 4 kind of key offerings that we kind of put out there. Could you just explain what they are and why they're so important?
Yeah, over time, my experience at that larger luxury health club, I had the chance to recognize that I think people can see through sometimes our lead generation tactics, sometimes like the referral programs, the programs we kind of always offer, that they have to put in potentially more than we are. We're just kind of asking them to do a lot of the work for us. So I recognize that the 4 programs that we should be offering, I like to call them exposure, basically, programs. So ways to help people really get to experience what you offer. And those 4 offerings I like to kind of break down are workshops, events, programs that evolve over time, and then retreats. So those are the 4 things that I think we should have a strategy around in our clubs to provide a start and end date. What I love about all of those programs is it is potentially just one day, if it's like a big event, or if it's an enrollment program, it starts at a certain date, it ends at a certain date. So you're not committed to having these newer participants, you know, depending on how much you want to offer those people, if it's maybe a trial membership or a trial experience, giving them those 4 options throughout the year, and then seeing who attends, seeing what their interests are, and then exposing them to the relationships and the experiences. I think those are the 2 ways that we can show people what we offer, who we offer, where we offer it. And these can be offered in person and online. So first, it sounds like that's a lot to plan, right? You're like, how am I going to do all 4 of those things? I think it takes a strategy. So each one of those different offerings has different parameters, how long they are, where they work the best in your schedule throughout the entire year. And right now, as we speak about this, January is a great time to be looking at that. What does your annual plan for these 4 opportunities to share what you offer look like? So I'm happy to break down each one, kind of talk about what each one is.
Just before
yeah, go ahead.
What you mentioned that the consumer, the people viewing our ads and all this type of thing on Facebook these days, wherever it is, are kind of getting used to the same offerings that everyone gives, a 7-day free pass or half price first month or these type of offerings. Why do you think the consumer, the general public, are kind of getting so used to them and they're not engaging with these offers as much as they once used to?
I think just as you said, they've seen them over and over again. They're not quite sure exactly if you offer, let's say, a trial membership, but there's nothing that really is related to what they're looking for or they want. It kind of loses its excitement, I guess. So we can continue to offer those things we've always done, but I think the trial and error of these potential new experiences that you can offer someone who's never experienced your facility before. Also thinking about the fact that it takes several times for someone to see a Facebook ad or see a social media ad. It takes several times for them to maybe step foot or do a tour. I mean, I'm sure if you're tracking that, how many times a person has maybe done a tour or interacted with a membership coordinator or an instructor or a front desk person before they became a member of your facility, you might be surprised at how many times it took that person to make the decision to want to work and actually attend your facility. Also, these 4 offerings are so relationship based. So if you plan and build this amazing, incredible event and you offer it for free or at a low price for people who aren't a part of your community already, their friends are going to invite them. So it's a much different experience than when you say, we're offering this referral program, invite your friends to come work out at the gym. That's nice. They're bringing their friend. Their friend might jump on the elliptical, go, this is a cool elliptical. Love this. I've seen this 100 other places. Or if you actually create an event that you invite your current clients to come and invite their friends to, it can be a rock star experience. They'll meet other people that they know and believe that they can build relationships with by becoming a member of your facility. And the effect of that, I think, experience is what makes the difference.
Interesting, very interesting. So we're creating these special events that obviously are bringing people in that nobody else does per se. Because if everyone's still doing the 7-day free pass or a half price first month and stuff, and you're putting on this very special events that they get a different feel about it. Yeah, it's quite interesting. But now I'm thinking like, wow, 1-day events, it's got to be unique. It's going to take a lot of planning and a lot of energy to kind of get all this going.
Totally. I think we may be nervous to try these things because it is really overwhelming. It's one more thing to think about. It's one more thing to try. It's an expense, especially depending on how big you want to offer this event. But there are strategies to make it lower cost and to get your team really excited about it too. So I think the two things we're kind of addressing here without necessarily saying that's interesting is we're talking about lead generation, but what's really fascinating to me when I've offered these events, when I've planned them, when I've created them, made them happen, the actual instructors or the team that's involved. So if you have your membership team at that event, if you have this amazing group of instructors, team teaching something fantastic at this event, you're sampling all the different offerings you have at this event, the team actually gets to know each other better because a lot of the time they aren't interacting with each other on a daily basis, especially group fitness instructors. And so it really is this fascinating interaction that the instructors have the opportunity to have too. So that's just another added value I like to share with people because it is intimidating building an event. And so I would recommend, instead of putting all of the work on your shoulders, ask your team. I've been so fascinated right before actually the pandemic officially started happening, especially in our area. We had the biggest event we'd ever had at this luxury health club I worked for, because an instructor had come to me and said, we have an incredibly large Brazilian demographic at this facility. And I was like, really? Are you sure about that? And I did some research, spoke with some of the members, and we did a really fantastic Brazilian themed Zumba class where we had a drumming band there. So we had them playing the drums while the Zumba music was playing. We had a team of instructors teaching with these fantastic outfits on, the participants dressed up, and I would never have tried that had the instructor not shared that with me. And it was the biggest event we'd ever done. We had over 200 people in our pavilion space at one time, which is something we may not have seen in the past few years, but at that time, 2019, it was a blast.
So I can definitely see the team wanting to get involved there because it's different to their daily work that they're going to do. And obviously they're going to be interacting with clients a lot more. But how often are we doing this then? Because most people need fresh faces, fresh people through the door all the time. Mm-hmm. Are we able to do this once a month, or should we aim for once a quarter?
We started with only, honestly, 2 times per year. We would do it in the fall. So we saw that in our experience as I call it the pre-January rush for us. School is starting to come back in session in the fall. Summer break is over. We start to see majority of our membership and our check-ins really spike in that September, October time. So we would do one at that time, a big event, and then one in the winter time. So obviously in January. And I would say my favorite event in January that we would do, we called it our studio showcase, where they would get a little taste of multiple different classes with multiple different instructors. I'd say that September time or even August time, we would do something hopefully outside, weather permitting. and invite some food vendors, make it kind of a big celebration of the good weather we were about to say goodbye to, and then make it again a large. In that case, it was a lower. The setup wasn't as much because we just had a stage. We didn't have any equipment. I think that's keeping it really easy. The first few times you try this is very possible. You don't have to have equipment if you offer something like a yoga class or a dance class or even a kickboxing class. And then you can even offer a body weight boot camp class if you want to showcase a specific personal trainer doing a class. So it's getting creative, I think, with the talent you have, with the spaces that you have. And then we used public spaces too in the fall time because we could use a public park. And that was just one more layer to inviting people and piquing people's interest. It was fun to watch people walking by and taking videos. And we had, of course, our membership team there. So they were stopping by their booth and learning more about the facility, but they weren't necessarily signed up or participating in the class. So they were actually just bystanders who happened to stop by. So it doesn't need to be, I would say definitely not monthly. That's really challenging, but it eventually, as you get really good at it, it might be possible. I'd say start with maybe one a year and then maybe evolve to two a year, maybe quarterly. Once you really start to get dialed in with your team, they know what the expectations are, you know how to run it, it'll get easier and easier.
I think something big you mentioned there as well was using other businesses locally to participate in it as well. So like
Absolutely.
you said, you had a few food vendors and stuff come down as well, which then you're tapping into their networks, which then is going to increase the number of people knowing. And like you said, go into other places to do this event. So people walking past get to see it. Something that popped in my mind then. So if we can't do this frequently enough, and you're saying every couple of months, maybe once a quarter or something, does it still work if we went to do other people's events, whether there's a carnival or a festival going on in your local area? Does it work the same if we went down there and did some stuff?
Possibly, yeah. If it's the exposure and that experience exposure, the the reason I have those other three offerings is they are another way that you can, like you said, stay consistent in having something. So the event is kind of the biggest, most experience-based event. And then what you can do is throughout the year, sprinkle into your schedule some smaller workshops. So workshops, in my opinion, are a 1.5 to 2 hour experience that are very specific to the needs of a certain client. So yoga for beginners was always a really popular one. And this one is a lot less work. You're not planning on hundreds of people attending. You don't have to worry necessarily about partnerships as much, but it can be another way to pique the interest of someone who's really interested in one thing. Another specific workshop we would do is like conditioning for runners, or another really popular one was ski conditioning or winter sports or summer sports. So you have these bigger events on maybe the bookends of your experiences, that beginning of the year, middle of the year, and then sprinkling in these workshops is another way that you can do that. And you can still partner, I think, with people, or you could offer them at other places, similar to what you just mentioned.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of like that approach as well, where you just put individual one-off courses, whether it's just a Pilates for beginners, it's just 8 weeks long, and it's just twice a year.
Yeah, exactly.
And how you can still get other businesses involved as well. It would be Pilates for beginners, and then you have some sort of meditation person coming in or some mindset person coming in at certain points as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And your team loves those because sometimes you have these interesting instructors who have this specialized certification in like kettlebells, and only one of your instructors has that specialized certification. And they want to offer that experience, but you're never going to find a sub for that class if it's a regular experience. So the workshops are wonderful because you can reach out to that instructor and say, hey, we're going to offer it 3 weeks or 6 weeks, like you mentioned. We're going to invite people from the outside of the facility. They have to pay this amount. Our current membership has to pay this amount. They're going to come experience your knowledge and all that you know about the kettlebells. And then that instructor is also getting that opportunity, as well as exposing people to a specific offering.
Okay, I'm going to bring the mood down now. So you're really excited as the club owner. You've got a load of the staff excited as well, but then you've got one or two who are just like, no, it's not going to work. Or I don't really want to do it. I'd rather just do my normal job. How do you
Right.
inspire and motivate the whole team to want to get involved and join in?
Oh, that's so good. I've never had someone ask me that question before. Like, applause to you. It takes a leader who's excited about it. I think that's the first thing. So hopefully you have that energy around it. And if you are sharing the why, if you're helping your team understand why this is going to help them, one, it's going to help them share their specific expertise that you are not able to offer regularly because you don't have enough support for that specific expertise at the moment. You are exposing them to potential new clients, especially if they're a private instructor or a one-on-one coach. They're going to gain new clients from this. And another thing to do, I would recommend, is get other employees involved. So I think a lot of the time we go to our experts and we say, all right, we're doing this. We educate them about everything that's happening. And then we forget our front desk team or our welcome desk team, and they're left hanging, wondering if members and participants come in asking about this workshop that's coming. They should be just as excited, if not more excited about it than the people who are actually teaching it, because they're the ones who are selling it and explaining it to those people walking in the door.
Okay, so let's go about selling it and generating the interest. Yeah, we have a current client base who potentially can refer and talk about it and post things about it on Facebook. But how are we bringing people in? How are we sharing the world this very special event, and how are we selling it to them?
I would obviously use whatever signage you have in your facility. Digital signage is wonderful. We did use paper signage, I'll be honest. A lot of the time, too, if we had an offering or on digital signage, we utilize QR codes a lot. So if someone, instead of having to write down every single thing in detail about how much it is for a member to pay, how much it is for a non-member to pay, they could easily just scan the QR code on that digital signage or that paper signage so they can share that information with their friends. We also used sites here in the US. We use there are sites called Eventbrite, or they're third-party sites where basically you're sharing your event and it's going out to the entire area that you live in. The reason we utilize these is we could pull the report from there, contact information of all of those people who signed up for the event via that kind of, I guess, area, or how they signed up in it coming to the event. Then we also used that because you are hoping that your members are going to be talking about it, bringing their friends, but the Eventbrite or third-party site hosting your event on that, also people set up on their own dashboard of a site like that what their interests are. So if someone who goes snowboarding or who likes skiing, and you're offering a ski conditioning workshop and you post it on a third-party site like that, their settings are going to trigger and invite them basically to look at that event. So that's another great avenue to use. As you do the events and as you do the workshops, no matter how small they are, I think initially it's recognizing that you're not going to have 200 people like we did for that first event. You're going to have maybe 30, maybe 50, maybe 60, maybe 100. Those people are now your marketing team for the next event. So recognizing that may not be the biggest thing right away. It's again, and you're going to learn so much the first time you do this. And you're going to want to take as much content as possible from that event. So what I mean by that is film the event happening, get close to the participants as they're moving and dancing, experiencing the class or the workshop or the event, and play with your settings on your phone. Our phones are amazing, the things that they're capable of when it comes to creating good marketing material. Film things in slow motion. It looks really epic if you do that. Put things together in a reel, make them really fun, and then interview people during the event and after the event so you can repurpose that for future content when advertising the next event. So it does compound over time, but those are some strategies we used.
Okay. I'm going to put the downer on it again now. So we all know anybody that pays for something, the chances of them turning up is way, way higher. But then
Yes.
we're doing this free Pilates for beginners event, but we've only got 30 spaces available, and all 30 have been taken. They've been snapped up because it's like a real special offer. How can we ensure that all 30 are actually going to turn up? Because you might have a waiting list of other people. How can we make sure they do turn up and they stay for that? I don't know, whether it's a 2 or 3 or 4 week program, that they keep turning up for the whole thing.
That was a huge learning lesson for us initially. So when we worked with Parks and Rec, we had that exact problem happen. We made it free to the public. We had instantly, I think we had a waiting list. Like the moment we put it on their website, we had hundreds of people signing up for this experience. And you are absolutely correct. We had a waiting list, and I think actually 50% of them showed up. So it has totally happened to me, and I'm so glad we're preparing people for this because it absolutely does happen. The way we combated that, we did in two ways. One was if you were in attendance of the event, you got additional things. It doesn't have to be always swag and food or more expensive things for yourself as a facility. It could be something as simple as, thank you for signing up for this event. This could be part of your email campaign that happens after they sign up. If you attend the event, once we meet you and you attend the event, so they have to actually physically be there and tracked, so they understand that, you can earn 20% off your first month at our facility. So there was an additional buy-in that they had to benefit from. We tried that, and that tended to work pretty well so that we could still avoid charging them. But I will admit, charging them a small amount made all the difference. It didn't provide us any revenue. It didn't make any difference on the event itself. Like, it really didn't help us or hurt us at all. But offering it for about $5 was something that we actually implemented eventually, and we had a much better number of people who actually showed up for the event itself.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Like, make sure when you turn up, you claim your free T-shirt or you get your free water bottle.
Yep.
Like, so you get 20% off after you've completed to carry on with us. Mm-hmm. But we've done this free event now. I always try and bring the mood down. Yeah, we're doing this free event now, and it's going really well, and people are turning up for this free Pilates starter workshop. How can we make sure that, I don't know, 50% of these people actually pay and sign up to our long-term memberships afterwards, and they haven't just come for free and then just left? They actually are going to stay and pay.
Yeah, I think it's really going to take observing and tracking that information, because I think initially already, I know here in the United States, a lot of facilities aren't as good about looking at that information. So that's what I love about what you're always sharing with people, is the importance of actually having the ability and giving yourself time after the event happens to look at the numbers. Who signed up after this? Who was actually there? And then I think continuing to communicate with them is going to be huge. Adding them to some sort of a email list, some sort of a separate, communication where they're still being exposed to your future offerings. I think that's one way to hopefully help encourage them to continue or start working with your facility. And again, that's why it's really important it may be a little hands-on, is when you offer your classes or these special events on that third-party platform. A lot of the time that doesn't just directly work or integrate with your customer management system. So by hand, you have to half the time have to take all of those names and contact information and put them and import them into your system or your email list. So it's a little hands-on, but it's absolutely worth it to, like you said, make sure those people follow through on becoming a part of your facility.
Oh, I just had another question, but I didn't write it down and it's gone. What was it? It'll come back to me. Let's switch to something else that you mentioned earlier then. So your target audience is leisure centers, big health clubs, big commercial gyms and stuff. And I've worked in leisure centers in a very before life, but now I work in a studio. So I can imagine in a studio, and we see this all the time, where we know the clients, we know them really well, and we can organize a retreat. But you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier that you organize retreats for these big commercial gyms, these health clubs, these
Yes.
massive leisure centers. How if you don't know them like super well?
Yeah, I think that's what honestly the larger centers, these larger gyms need to recognize is that they have to change the relationship with the clients that come in to more of that relationship that studios are able to offer. It's so incredibly important and it is possible. It's not easy, but it does start from group fitness majority of the time. So recognizing your, most often attendees, the people who are really dedicated to attending your classes. So finding those rock star attendees and then I think personally inviting them to the retreat was huge. So we had to, I guess I'm going ahead of myself, but we definitely needed to plan the retreat first. First, we recognized what is our goal? Are we just trying to break even and create this cool offering that we can provide to people that they can hopefully maybe explore a new area? Um, or you can do a retreat in-house. That's especially if you're a large leisure center, like you said, you have a spa, you have these executive locker rooms, you have this basketball court, you have this beautiful yoga studio. You can make that a part of a retreat, an experience in-house. Um, but you have to plan it out. You have to create what the experience is going to look like. What are you going to provide in the retreat, whether it's offsite or on-site? What's the experience like? Are you paying for the food? Are you paying for the travel? Are you paying like what's accommodated in the retreat? And then it's getting the people to attend the retreat. So we did that two ways. We personally invited our rock star attendees based on what type of retreat we were offering. The only retreat I have the most experience offering is a yoga retreat. And it's where we saw the most participation and signups was for yoga. And the funny thing is that we may have invited our rockstar attendees, but they also brought their family members who had never done yoga a day in their life. So the attendance was all over the board of ability at those retreats. But um, it was such a fun experience. The instructors got to know the participants on a whole new level. The participants got to know each other on a whole new level. But once you start marketing it and offering it, it's something that's so different that most leisure centers or even actually studios, I don't see them offering them very often either here. People are curious, so curious about it. The other thing I would recommend is doing a workshop or an education. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's a few minutes, or it's a video education on what the retreat is all about. So if you, because they have a big price tag a lot of the time, you're basically asking people to pay upwards of $1,000 to attend this retreat and experience this retreat. You have to be super clear as to what it looks like and what's included. So where is it happening? Get some really cool pictures, maybe a video of what the space looks like. Answer questions. So create almost like a Q&A page. You can create a landing page just for the retreat, or you can create, like I said, an event or an interactive webinar like we're doing today, where participants who are interested can ask questions and get really eager and excited to attend.
Yeah, I think the retreat is one of those kind of scary events that most people it's just so big, and there could be so many things in your mind that could potentially go wrong that you're just unsure. Where do I go? Will people travel? How much will they spend? Do I have to get the food? Do I have to get the accommodation? All this, so there's so many different things, and I think that is one of the things that puts people off. Okay, so as we close in towards the end of this episode now, I've asked a load of questions. But is there any questions I maybe should have asked that I haven't asked that you think the audience needs to know?
I think you've asked them so well in thinking like an operator. I think that's the best part is I can get super excited about all of these offerings, but there are a lot of challenges that come with them, a lot of things that can happen that aren't so pretty. But it does take, I think the most important thing is recognizing it takes a plan. So don't freak out about these four offerings and think you have to offer every single one of them every month, but do create an idea of what you want that year to look like. When are you going to do your events? That's kind of those I tend to start with for my planning. Then I do the workshops, sprinkle those in throughout the year, and then time them strategically based on when you're offering your longer enrollment programs. So programs that are like, I mean, this isn't the language we like to use anymore, but like a body transformation kind of program, or a weight loss, or body, changing how you feel and your fitness level, I guess, is a 10-week program, a 12-week program. So timing your workshops to help accommodate those types of programs. And then your retreats, I would say maybe one a year to start. If you really want to take on a retreat, it's just another one of those fantastic experiences that one person might attend and then will most likely join your facility afterwards because of the amazing relationships they've built over time at that retreat. So I would say building that plan. And then, as we kind of spoke about already, have the plan executed, make it happen to the best of your ability, because a lot of this might be new for some of you, and use that opportunity to learn from it, grab content for future events and experiences you want to create, and then evaluate. So very much to what David was asking me earlier is, how do you recognize if this even worked? And the only way to do that is to take the time to actually look at what participation was like, what you could improve on, ask for feedback from your instructors and your participants, and then try again and see what improved.
I think you can get loads of messages like, wow, how do I even start with this events plan and the marketing plan to go with it and to organize everything? Okay, but we'll talk about how people can reach out in a minute. Sure. So we always ask 3 questions, and we give you like 1 minute to answer each of these questions. So then we can put these questions out to the world to get more people to kind of watch these episodes. Mm-hmm. So question number 1, if with all this knowledge you have now, you're going to start again, what maybe things might you have done differently?
Such a good question. I would have asked my team for more help. I think initially when I first started offering these unique offerings, I was so about myself, what I thought we needed to try, what I thought we needed to offer. And until I leaned on my team, I had learned so much more from them.
Nice. Okay. So we've talked about workshops, courses, programs, unique services and special events and retreats and loads of other things. But what would you class as your best lead generation tool, event, service?
I would say the workshops, absolutely, hands down. I think especially for the effort level that they take, and there's something that you can easily be offering right now. I mean, they're a lot. It takes a lot less effort to offer those workshops, and the lead generation was really positive for us because it was a specific audience curious about what we can offer them, and then they were more likely to join our facility.
Okay, last one. I would like your 3 tips for studio, gym, commercial, health club owners to succeed this year, as we're still right at the start of the year. What would your 3 tips be to succeed?
3 tips. I would say number 1 is, we're speaking in January. Don't get too wrapped up in the trend that's being vocalized in a lot of different areas. Pay attention to them, but also recognize, how do those trends work well with your specific audience? So I would say 1, be aware of that. 2 is lean on, if you're not already, your talent, and especially when it comes to group fitness. If you have personal trainers who are not teaching classes or small groups yet, you've got to tap into that community of people, whether it's in person, online, outdoors, anywhere. Groups of people are almost always going to be much better than just one individual. And then the 3rd tip I would have is to get really clear on your numbers. As a early on group fitness manager, I was really young, really naive, and I was throwing classes everywhere. And I was able to do that in 2015. That was absolutely possible. But you've got to continue reevaluating and creating time for yourself to do so. So make it a part of your weekly routine, your daily routine, to be evaluating what's working, what's not working, what's got to go, and then take action on all of that.
Nice. Okay. So for anybody now who's kind of like mind is blown, like, wow, I'd love to do some of this stuff, or I don't even know where to start to do all this stuff, you're helping people out with a free 15-minute coaching call, correct?
I am. And it's probably going to be longer than 15 minutes. I'm not going to cut you off. If I like you, it'll be longer than 15 minutes. But I'm more than happy to meet with you and share more about my ideas, my experience, and how to help your specific business.
Nice. Staci, we'll put that in the show notes and in all the emails when it goes out and everything. But yeah, thank you for coming on today. You've definitely given me some different ideas and things to consider moving forward. And I'm guessing everyone listening now or further down the line are probably now considering a lot of these things themselves.
Great. Thank you so much, David, for this opportunity, and love what you're doing.
No problem. We'll probably get you on later down the line, but thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on another guest interview. Each and every Monday, we try and bring you a brand new guest interview to help you grow and scale your fitness business. As usual, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, don't forget to subscribe below. And if you want to watch these interviews live and ask questions, then come and join us inside the 3 Facebook group. I'll speak to you all next week. Cheers.